Hello everyone and welcome back to the Formula 1 2021 League. This is Season 2, race number 3 in China. Now, China is quite an interesting track because not a lot of people race on China. The reason for that is because it's not regularly put into the career mode season, so unless you manually put it in, you're just never going to see it pop up. So me and pretty much everyone else are testing this track for the first time ever. I think I've raced on it once before for a 5-lapper, and the only thing I knew is that the tire wear and tire temperature on this track is very high. So it's going to be interesting because it means that there's going to be a good number of strategies that are all viable, but each one has its own level of risk. And generally the risk you're going to take is where you are in the standings, which, speaking of, as of Portugal last week, we are top of the standings at 42 points. We are a clear 23 points ahead of second place. And for the constructors, we are 18 points ahead. So realistically, we are not looking to take a lot of risk. And in fact, I am thinking this time I'm going to try and stick it to the mediums at the beginning. So far, I've been trying to get track position because I felt like that was more important. But for this one, I want to try and shake up the strategy a little bit. And by the way, you can kind of hear it in my voice, but I'm still not 100%. In fact, it's really in my throat and chest this week. So if I sound a little hoarse or weak, that's the reason why. But I also don't want to fall too far behind on these videos. So I'm going to try and knock this one out as best I can. Speaking of the videos, by the way, the last video got, I think it's up to 75 views now, which is crazy. That means more people are coming outside of the league and watching this video, so thank you if you're coming in and watching this. That's incredible. And speaking of that, there's also quite a big number of people looking at the Gundam montages, which is apparently just like being a great hit. So thank you for everyone who decided to come and watch that. Enough patting myself on the back. Let's get into the racing, starting with qualifying. So on to my qualifying lap. I'm just warming my tires. I do want to make a quick note before I go into my actual lap. As you've probably noticed right now, there is no game audio. That's because OBS decided to update and apparently my old captures don't work. So the only option I have was a ton of comms, which are just gonna, you're not gonna be able to hear the racing anyways, or nothing. And I think nothing's easier most of the time. The alternative is I make weird car noises, which I'm absolutely not going to do because that would just take a ton of time and effort, so no way that's happening. But as we get onto this first lap, you can see one of the harshest corners on your tires. You can see I'm taking it a little bit wide because I just want to keep up my minimum speed, and you don't lose too much time taking that line. But you can see my left tires, both front and back, are already up to 93 degrees compared to the 87 and 89 degrees on the other side. Now, the soft runners like Yuffie in front of me are going to be so much faster, so I'm just trying to get somewhere good on position, not put too much tire wear into these tires, and try and go for the one stop from the mediums to the hards. Now, a really fast turning section, you can go flat out if you're brave, but I lifted a little bit because I wanted to make sure I didn't spin early and be forced onto the soft tires to make a time. Still, like, you can see just how many bends there are, how much weight you're putting from one side to the other. My tires are already 100 degrees, and considering the mediums can disperse heat a little bit better than the softs, that's still quite a bit of tire temperature that I am putting into them. Another long turn here, keeping the heat, but now the straight where most of the passes are likely to take place. It is so long. The DRS is actually a little bit halfway down, so it's not too advantageous, but it's still going to be, like I said, the best place to pass. A little bit deep, but it's still a nice turn. Exit could have been a little bit better there, and it's a surprisingly long lap. We're looking at the minute 30s right now, and that is quite long compared to other tracks, and we're going to slot into 5th place. I'm not unhappy with that, but I'm definitely not super happy. But like I said, my goal is to just let it sit as is and see how we do in this race, because I expect quite a lot of people to be going on those soft tires. And on to the tire strategies themselves that I mentioned earlier, there was 3 main strategies that I found out in my testing. One is the very safe medium to hard. That is my number 1 strategy. My number 2 strategy is actually the medium to soft, but that depends on how much tire wear I can keep off my tires. And from testing, it's kind of close, and I really have to time save. The last one is soft to hard, which is probably the strat most people are going to be on. And I think that one's still competitive, but you do need to watch tire wear still. There is a fourth one out there where you go soft, medium, soft. That one is fine, but from testing, you lost about 12 seconds in total race time. So not really ideal, kind of okay if there's a safety car, but there's a lot of runoff on this track, so I don't expect a safety car. So anyways, with that in mind, let's get into the race. So now, on to the race itself. As you can see, it's telling me I can go hard and medium. That's because we had the race restart, as I said. So technically you could go on a tire, but we are enforcing the rules that whatever tire you qualified on, you have to start on. Minus 2 people who I think DNF'd. So they can start on the hards if they want to, and you can see the mediums will go to the end. The hards will go to the end, the mediums will make and go, and you can see I'm pushing the pit all the way down because I want to see if the softs will make it. And I think how the game sees it is that the softs will not make it within 1 or 2 laps of the end, and if I'm pushing really hard for my testing, it's not going to make it at all. So my main plan is to go medium hards, which I think is a very good strategy. Is it going to be faster than someone who can pull off soft medium or medium soft? I don't think so, but we'll see as we get into the race. I've also put in 1.1 laps more fuel than is required in for the race laps. So I'm hoping that's good. In my testing, I've done much less, and it's been fine, so I'm hoping this is more than enough. But as usual, when you're racing hard, you use more fuel than you think you're going to. So with that being said, strategies out of the way, you can see that we are in 6th place right now, which means we fell 1 position from our qualifying lap. So we've got to make up some places now on these mediums as we get 5 red lights in China. And it's away we go. Checker not having a great start. He's ghosting a little bit, but I decided to go around him and not risk going through him. And suddenly we are fighting for 5th. Neighbor, he's going to take the position. He's on those fast tops, but Noct is on the hard, so we can maybe get a position on him going into this corner. And suddenly Neighbor's going to have a big lag spike. All of a sudden it's 4 of us going to this corner, and Noct is going to go straight across the front of my car, touching tires, and I managed to avoid any damage, which for a lot of people will be just the usual from me, managing to go tire to tire with everyone, and we only fall back to our 6th position, and we're still fighting for 5th now, so very fortunate for us to not get any damage, and now our strategy has to come into play so we can try and keep up these soft runners. Vowie going a bit slow through that corner, and Checker's right on him, tries to get the position and does. Vowie looking for the switchback, Checker just avoiding damage, and me just avoiding Checker, and all of a sudden we're going to a fight into this corner, but I decide to let Checker go because Checker and I are on the same strategy. There's not a huge point in fighting him right now. The best thing I can do is hope Checker stays within Vowie's DRS and I stay within Checker's DRS so that Vowie can maybe pull us along. Also, Checker was kind of my unofficial teammate for this weekend because my teammate wasn't here for this race, and Checker was in my Discord channel, so we were kind of talking throughout this race. So we were unofficial teammates, but just to clear up any issues with that, we were not working together in any way. We were actively competing. But in this moment, even unofficially, even if we weren't in the same Discord, I would still be doing this strategy, trying to stick behind Checker and keeping that DRS. Now, not too long later, you can see that Checker is right behind Vowie still. I'm still right behind Checker. Vowie getting a little snap of oversteer, tries to go on the throttle, and it's gonna spin him, and all of a sudden, Checker and I are alone on our medium strats, and you can see that we are 3, almost 4 seconds behind Chills on the softs. So just how much of a time advantage the softs are getting. Also, we were involved in a minor collision at the beginning, so we have lost quite a bit of time there. But you can see that both Red Bulls and the Alfa Romeo of Morose are up ahead, and they are gaining. So right now, Checker and I need to step up our speed just a little bit to try and stay competitive. Though I should note, and this is a real credit to Checker here, Checker on the restart did not get to pick his tire setup as I go for a pass on Checker. By the way, kind of slingshotting each other, and again, sort of unofficial strategy of keeping our pace up for the soft runners. Checker did not pick his setup on the restart, meaning that while he qualified on the correct setup, he is on the default wings and aerodynamics for everything, which is generally speaking not a good strat. Now, default's not the worst on China because the wings are kind of close, but Checker was not only making the setup work, he was actually quite fast in them. So huge credit to him for making it making it work no matter what, even when the car is trying to fight you. Now, midway through lap number 6, you can see that I have caught up to the Red Bulls ahead. Moreau's managing to get them out of his DRS, which is really, really good for him. It means that he doesn't have to worry about any pressure, and now their strategies are going to be different. So, me being in this DRS is quite good. Checker falling about 2 seconds. That's likely the setup hindering him because he was keeping up for quite a while. And now you can see that the two Red Bulls are actually going to gain a bit of time on the straight, and that's because they were throwing their battery on because they want to go into the pits, or rather Chills wants to go in the pits since he was the one giving me DRS potentially, so that breaks my DRS, and now I need to get those 6/10 back on Sinful if I'm going to get DRS again. But this is also the normal pit window for the soft runners, so they're going to be going on to the hards, or they're going to go medium softs. I believe they're both going to go for the soft hard strategy, so right now we are kind of on the same strat. My tires are starting to get their advantage, and this is why I said it was a safe choice to start on the mediums, because you can gain that advantage on the soft runners and push almost twice as long, which means that when we go on our hards, and the soft runners have been on those hards for a while, not only can I gain an advantage while they're on cold hards and I'm on still pretty good mediums, towards the end of the race, my tire deg will be significantly less if they go on hards now, because they will have to do effectively 20 laps, whereas if I pit about lap 12 or 13, I will only have to do 15, and 5 laps of tire deg can be quite significant. Now, in terms of me potentially going onto the soft strat, you can see just how much heat I'm putting into my front tires. Front left is already at 30% after 7 laps, which means I need to make it 14 more laps. If 7 is 30%, that means I'll be at 90% if I try to put 14 more laps in, and tire popping happens around 70%. 90% tires are almost undrivable, so not gonna happen. You can see me trying to make a move on Sinful. This is kind of our only real battle of the race, and he cuts off the switchback, so I have to stick behind him. And I'm not going to use any battery because I'm positive he's going to go into the pits, which he does. End up going a little bit wide, maybe a bit of dirty air there. But you can see now it's just Moreau's ahead, who is going to keep pushing on these softs. So now the concern is that Moreau's is going for that soft to medium strat, which will be significantly faster if he can make it work. But if he has the same tire deg as me, that should be impossible, or at least that's what I think. Now to the end of lap number 13, you can see that I'm going to go ahead and pit. Checker managed to close a bit of time to me as well, so I believe he's going to pit as well at the same time. And now it's a real question of how much have our mediums got an advantage over the hards that Sinful and Chills moved on to. And you can see they're 25 and 27 seconds behind as of when we entered the pits. We're going to go on to those hards now. And no, Checker actually staying out one more lap. You can see the Red Bulls are only just coming down the straight now, which means if I go, they are going to still be behind me, and by some margin. Now, they've had 5 laps to warm up those hards, but given the tire deg on this track, I'm confident I can get the hards up to temperature pretty quickly, and I have 3.4 seconds of advantage to Sinful. If you remember when I was going, or when they went into the pits, I was about a second to a second and a half behind, maybe slightly under was Sinful, and I come out 4 seconds ahead, and that's just how much of an advantage those mediums had over the brand new hards. The hards are really good at making it very long, but even over used mediums, they're still not quite as fast. At least at first, for the first 10 or so laps. Then they come into their own tire that can be ridiculously fast towards the end of the race. Now, notably, you can see Checkers ahead of me, but also Moreau's has gone on to the medium. So now it's a question in my head, if Moreau's decides to pit for softs, where will he turn up? Likely far behind Chills, I'm going to guess. And if he's going to risk it, can I catch up to him before it's too late? Another big jump here towards the end of lap number 20. You can see that Checker, after his pit stop, has also got ahead of Chills. Sinful, I believe, had a spin and ended up switching to a new set of mediums to make it to the end of the race. So right now, the Red Bulls are not really in contention. Safety car is going to be really the big thing that shakes up this race. But like I said, other than the main straight, there's so much runoff you can see to the left and right. So unless you intentionally go into a wall, it's really, really hard to cause a safety car on China. The other thing you can see is that despite with there being 7 laps left, I've only closed about a second to Moreau's, and that's just how good those mediums are towards the later stage. But I'm hoping that they're going to drop off, but they really need to drop off in the next 2 or 3 laps, because I would need to gain an entire second to Moreau's per lap to be competitive towards the end. And one of my big concerns right now is that I'm using quite a bit of fuel, so I need to make sure I can push as hard as I can, but I also need to make sure I don't DNF by running out of fuel towards the end. And now another jump, because there's not a lot happening. You can see Chills went on to softs to get fastest lap, which he did in fact get. Moreau's is 3.4 seconds ahead of me with only this last lap coming up. And you can see on the bottom right that I'm checking my fuel and I only have 0.04, 0.03, 0.02 extra fuel per lap. So that means that right now, if I manage to maintain this, I will have exactly the right amount of fuel to finish the race. But you can see just how much it's going down, already in the red. And with my 8-second gap to Checker behind me, it means I can no longer push. And you can see me start to lift here to gain that fuel back and make sure I don't DNF. So credit to Moreau's. He's going to, assuming nothing goes wrong, take this race. And he has managed to make the soft medium strat work, and that is impressive in itself. And afterwards, asking his tire deg, he still had probably about 10 to 20% before I was really gonna start gaining tons and tons. He wasn't going flat out, obviously, because he had such a gap to me, but you can see the drop off did start to happen as I closed about 4 seconds. So tire strategy was gonna work, but we just needed a little bit more time and a little bit more tire conservation. And so, for the first time this season, we are not going to take the checker flag, but we are going to take second place, which is really important for our points in not only the drivers, but the constructors. So, let me put the points up here so you can see what I'm talking about. I am currently in the lead by 22 points to Moreau's, who has just jumped a handful of people to get to second place after missing a race, so he has done quite well for himself. But that 22 points means that I can theoretically miss the next race and have Moreau's get maximum points and still have a 1-point lead. So that buffer is good, but we need to keep building on it. In terms of the constructors, we are only 18 points ahead. There's quite a good number of points that you can get in a weekend, so the constructors doesn't have any buffer whatsoever. Hoping to get my teammate back soon so we can start working on it together, but you can see that us with 57 points and the next 3 teams all within 3 points of each other. So right now it's anyone's game for the constructors, and every race is going to matter. So thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next race. It's going to be Singapore. See you there.